Hello Summoners, and welcome to another ProGuides video. I'm Tia, and today I'm going over our Challenger Coach's 5 best supports on patch 11.7. We'll look at strengths, playstyles, and builds that can help you take advantage of these picks to carry from the role. So hit that sub button and let's jump right into it. Do note that the champs in this video are generally the most meta picks for their role, and as a result, most of them are picked or banned pretty frequently. If you're looking for champs to play that are much less contested, check out our top 3 champs to main series. The champs in those videos are still strong enough to carry with, but they're low in both pick and ban rate, meaning you're much more likely to get your hands on them. We'll start things off with Leona. While there are other tanky CC supports in the meta, Leona was already our pick for the best of the bunch before this patch. And with Rell and Alistar both taking pretty substantial hits, the gap is only widening. So what makes her so much better than the competition? Most tank champs either have really strong engage tools to start fights off strong, or low cooldown CC to provide constant disruption. To give a couple of examples, we'll use Maokai and Rell. In Maokai's case, his low cooldown Q and W spam give him constant CC, but usually just on a single target at a time. Additionally, aside from using Flash W, he doesn't have much engage potential, and even then, he can only force a pick on a single target. Rell, inversely, has amazing engage in her kit, with a combination of her ult, W, and E giving her the ability to lock down the entire enemy team for a few seconds and give her teammates the chance to wipe them out. But out of all of her CC abilities, the lowest cooldown is a pretty long 11 seconds, meaning she has a lot of downtime after her initial engage before she can do anything meaningful. But in Leona's case, she has everything you could want in a tank. Her Q's low cooldown means you can constantly disrupt opponents in team fights. E gives you a pretty long range gap closer that can't even be body blocked by minions in lane or frontliners in team fights, and her ult allows you to engage up to 1200 units away. On top of all of that, her W gives an insane amount of durability, so she's pretty darn hard to bring down. In lane phase, you'll want to abuse your E's ability to go through creeps to punish the enemy ADC anytime they move up to farm. Just be sure you communicate that with your ADC so you're both on the same page. With Leona being such a better pick now that other top champs have been knocked down a notch, she's basically your ticket to get on that free ELO Express. That said, if you just lock her in without knowing how to play her, it's not going to go as good as you think. We've all seen that player that insta-locks the flavor of the month OP pick just to go 0-5 in the first 10 minutes of the game and be the anchor weighing the team down. To make sure that player isn't you, we've got you covered. Whether you need to learn the basics of laning or you're ready to move on to the more advanced tactics and techniques, our top tier coaches are ready to teach you everything you need to know to support like a pro. So head on over to ProGuides.com and book a session so you can reach your full potential. Now, back to the topic at hand. For your items, the 3 core items of Bulwark, Solari, and Zeke's are pretty set in stone, but you have flexibility in the other slots. If you're not going to roam a ton or you'd rather be beefier, Steel Caps or Merc Treads are solid choices. For other item choices, you can go Abyssal Mask if you want to give your teammates more damage, Stone Plate if you need more durability as a solo frontliner, or pick up other tankier items for specific damage threats, like Randuin's for crit champs or Force of Nature for AP heavy enemy team comps. For your runes, Second Wind helps you sustain a bit in lane so you have enough HP to engage on the other bot laners, but you can take conditioning instead if you want to be tankier in teamfights. Our second support is THRESH. While he is among the many bot laners being changed on this patch, he's getting the good old-fashioned slap on the wrist style of nerf. The shield on THRESH's W is possibly the least important part of his entire kit, and since it's only targeting the HP at later ranks, it will very, very rarely ever make the difference in whether you save a teammate in a fight. Good THRESH players are still going to make insane plays with his well-rounded high-skill cap kit. His ability to make picks, lock down targets, peel for allies, and save the ones caught out with his lantern make him a versatile champ that can fit into and play against pretty much any team comp. But with a kit that can seemingly do everything, that also means you have to have the decision-making to know what the right play is for every situation. For example, if your ADC isn't a mobile hyper carry like Jinx, you'll need to position to peel for her. Against most champs, it's pretty straightforward. Just sit between her and the enemy team and use E and ult to stop them from reaching her. But against someone like Zac that can jump over walls from any angle, you'll need to play further back to ensure you're able to flay him out of his jump. Then you have champs like Jarvan. Sure, you can use your flay to stop his EQ combo, but if he has flash up, there's a good chance he can still reach Jinx to get his ult on her. In those cases, instead of looking to peel the Jarvan, you can completely neutralize his ult by playing further back and using your Lantern to pull Jinx out to safety. And that's just talking about a couple of scenarios for a single ADC. Other games you may have to peel in other ways, or drop the concept of peeling altogether because you need to look to catch and lock down a fed enemy carry. Once you figure out what you need to do in each fight, you'll also need to have the mechanics to pull it off. All in all, THRESH is one of the hardest supports to master, and it definitely takes some time and effort to play him properly. And that brings us to today's question of the day. What do you think the hardest champ is in each role? For this one, we'd like you to focus on skill ceiling over skill floor. That means how hard it is to play a champ to their fullest potential, not how easy it is to pick up a champ and play them at a passable level. We're excited to see what you have to say, so let us know your answers down in the comments below. Thank you guys for that, and now, without further ado, let's get back to the video. For your items on THRESH, the build we gave gives a mix of tankiness and utility, but you can swap out items to lean more towards one side than the other. If you need more beefiness, drop Redemption for Randuin's or Stoneplate. If your team has plenty of frontline strength, you can swap out Knight's Vow for Mikhail's for the active cleanse effect, with the bonus of the healing and shielding power helping to buff up Redemption's heal once you finish that. For your runes, Bone Plating is generally the best since it helps mitigate a good chunk of damage when you're ready to go for an all-in. But against a poke-heavy lane, you'll want to go Second Wind instead. Up next, we have my personal bae, Lulu. There's pretty much never been a meta where Lulu is a bad pick. Even when enchanters are generally not great, Lulu's ability to buff up carries to do crazy DPS, grant movement speed to enable divers to get into the fight, and fully shut down opponents no matter how fed they are with her polymorph make her a constant S or A tier pick. While it can be tempting to just sit back and be carried when you're playing enchanters, as Lulu, you want to be pretty aggressive, with Pixies on attack damage providing a big boost to your auto trades. Just be sure that when you're trading, you're not being too aggressive. Against hook champs, you'll want to sit behind minions as you look to harass them, and against some hard-hitting opponents like Draven, you'll probably want to avoid trading altogether. While most enchanters' spells are pretty one-dimensional, with Lulu, you always have choices to think about. Instead of mindlessly spamming your spells on your teammates, think about your opponents. Your W can be a great way to boost the damage a fed carry is putting out. But on the flip side, it can also totally prevent a fed opponent from doing anything in a fight. During lane phase, you'll want to use E on your opponent when you're just looking for a short bursty trade, but if they're firing back, it may be more beneficial to shield yourself or your carry. Even your ult has a bit of flexibility to it. Most of the time, you'll use it on the back lane carry to knock up an enemy that is diving onto them, with the slowing aura helping your carry to kite out the opponent, but in other games, it may be best to use your ult's knockup to chain CC with the teammates engaged, allowing your other teammates to wombo combo and wipe out your foes before they even get a chance to fight back. As far as items go, the items we gave are the standard cookie cutter build for enchanters, but you can also opt to go for a more AP heavy build instead. To go this route, buy Medjai's instead of Staff of Flowing Water and top off your build with Rabadons. Since her ult has a pretty decent AP ratio and is considered bonus health, not a heal, building more AP actually makes it more effective for keeping teammates alive. Your W will also grant more movement speed to teammates, and your Pix's attacks will hit harder, so you can give an even bigger steroid to the carry you buff up. The trade-off for this build is losing the utility of Staff and Putrifier, having less haste, and having to make sure you don't die so you don't lose your Medjai stacks. The runes we have include running Scorch to have more trading power in lane, but if you're against a tougher lane and you'd rather play for scaling, or plan on building the AP build I talked about, you should run Gathering Storm. Another OP enchanter this patch is Seraphine. While Lulu is stronger in lane and specializes in buffing up a single teammate or shutting down a specific opponent, Seraphine is all about scaling up and being a ridiculously strong team fighter. All of that said, it's not like you totally have to roll over in lane as Seraphine. Against low threat lanes, you can bully them hard using your Qs, Es, and passive enhanced auto attacks to poke them constantly. Once you're 6, your RE combo allows you to potentially CC lock a target for over 2 full seconds, while also putting out a pretty good chunk of damage. When paired with an ADC like Jhin or MF that can capitalize on the CC to get out their own combo, you can easily kill a squishy target from 100 HP. Against more aggressive kill lanes, namely those with engaged supports, you want to look to trade on them early as much as you can. The idea behind this is to poke them out before they level up and get the ability to force hard on you. You want to keep up the pressure and constantly poke them at their tower before they can regen up and get the chance to fight. If you can't poke them out enough or they take a reset and come back with full HP, you want to swap your playstyle to a fully defensive stance. Just play back, preferably under your tower, and farm up for the rest of the laning phase. Once you get out of the lane phase, you'll want to look mainly to fight full 5v5 teamfights, where Seraphine truly shines. Since Seraphine's abilities travel relatively slow, they can be somewhat easy to dodge for opponents that see them coming. With that in mind, don't just throw them out right away at the start of a fight. Wait until either your allies land their own CC or the enemy team overcommits to the fight, and then send out your ult and E to chain CC your foes to their death. One more note about ability usage is the priority for which spell to use when you have your Echo passive up. If you have the choice to do so, you should always use an Echo W in teamfights, with the next best option being your E. Your entire existence is to set up and enable your teammates to carry, so the damage boost from Q doesn't compare to the utility the other two spells give. For items, you can make the same swaps we did for Lulu, opting for Medjais and Rabadons instead of Chemtech in either Staff or Ardent. That said, Seraphine does use ability haste quite well for cycling through her spells for her passive, and since her W is a pretty long cooldown compared to most other enchanter heals and shields. So it's a bit more up for debate whether it's more worth it to keep Medjais over Cosmic Drive, even if you can maintain full stacks. Since Seraphine's main strength is team fighting, the runes we've given are the best for scaling into teamfights. But if you're dealing with a super aggressive kill lane bottom, Guardian can be taken as an alternative keystone if you're not confident in surviving the early game. For that page, you'll go Guardian, Fawn of Life, Bone Plating, Revitalize, Transcendence, and Gathering Storm. You will notice a difference in your mana pool in teamfights since you won't have Presence of Mind, but you can help make that up at least a little bit by building a tier for lane phase and selling it when you need to later. Finishing off our list, we have Bard. His kit seems like 4 abilities taken from champs with completely different kits, yet somehow they work out to make him an incredibly versatile champ that can bully lane, provide sustain, play to roam, and even engage fights when things line up right. During lane phase, you'll want to always make sure you're using your W on cooldown, setting up little health packs for yourself or your carry behind your turret where they can mature to full strength. While they may seem expensive, you can replenish mana by going to pick up some chimes. Anytime you go for a roam, you should look to gank for your mid laner. Even if you don't pick up a kill, having a support roam on you can be a pretty big tilter for the enemy laner, especially since Bard's auto attacks alone do a pretty big chunk of damage. Bard's especially good at working with junglers, with his E giving you ways to bypass vision or even open up otherwise impossible gank routes. One strong strategy on red side is to let the enemy laners push up to your turret and then portal your jungler in from the jungle into the lane, behind your opponents. Outside of lane phase, you can still zoom around the map and look to make picks. And with Bard's passive giving him so much damage, it's often the case that you can solo kill squishy carries that you catch out in a bad spot. His ult adds some more playmaking potential to things, but be careful cause it's a double-edged sword. It's just as possible to save your team or make a pick with a good ult as it is to set your entire team up to be aced by the enemy with a bad ult. As with every other entry, we gave you the standard Bard build you want to aim for, with each item playing to a different strength. Solari is all around good in team fights and makes Bard beefier. Dead Man's adds on to that survivability while giving even more roaming strength, and RFC helps land those Meep-empowered autos from far away. Bard is one of the few champs that regularly builds Vigilant Wardstone, which I think is a pretty underrated item overall, being that it gives a fat 40 ability haste and allows you to build a 6th item but still keep a slot for control wards. All of this said, if you want to swap out items, you can focus on going more heavily into one identity over the well-rounded approach. If you want more utility, you can pick up Redemption and Mikkel's. If you want an offensive option, Wit's End is great, and if you want to be tankier, consider Frozen Heart, Randuin's Omen, or Abyssal Mask. If you want to change your playstyle entirely to roaming as hard as possible in the early game, you can even swap out your boots in Mythic for Mobies and Imperial Mandate, fully focusing on ganking early and making picks later. If you plan on playing that way, make sure to run Cheap Shot over Eyeball Collection.
Love it or hate it, the role of support can be one of the most impactful on the Rift when played correctly. I say that because I'm a support main, so if you're not afraid of getting banned out too much, then try out the ones on this list and enjoy carrying your games. Also, if you enjoyed the video, remember to leave a like, sub to the channel, and check out our community Discord through the link in the description. That's it for today. Go and get some sunshine, follow me on Instagram, and I'll see you next time. That rhymed. I'm a poet.